I just want to tell you, in the great state of Minnesota, I always say about Minnesota, I've been there dozens and dozens of times in my life. My parents grew up there. We have cousins there. It's a beautiful state. Overrun with left-wingers at this point, I'm sorry to report, overrun with the red-green axis, the Marxists who have locked arms with the Islamists. And so it's unfortunate because it's a beautiful state and many good and noble people living there, but not all of them. So I want to quick say this about what's happening in Christian persecution. So there's a couple in Minnesota whose names are Carl and Angel Larson, a married couple. They own a video production company. They're devoutly Christian. They say so on their mission statement. The purpose of their videography company is to glorify God and to glorify Christ. That's what they say. I'm shortening it to get to the point of the story. So they decide to expand their video production business into filming weddings. And they had, of course, the state of Minnesota with now Attorney General, okay, how to describe him? Former U.S. Senator, Democrat, now Attorney General, Muslim, left-wing Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, came after them. This is an astonishing thing that first happened. So to make the story quick, the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, came after this company to say, you can't do this videography business unless you're willing to do videos for same-sex weddings. They said, no, actually, we support traditional marriage. It's our Christian values. So because the state entity named the Minnesota State Human Rights Act was being enforced against them, saying you can't discriminate based on same-sex marriage or based on whether people in the marriage are same-sex, the Larsons, trying to protect themselves, went to federal court, filed a lawsuit saying essentially we're being forced by the state of Minnesota to do things that violate our Christian beliefs. We're being forced by the state to extend our videography services to same-sex marriage, which we see as inconsistent with our Christian values. The Attorney General, Keith Ellison, doesn't care one little bit what they think about their Christian values. In fact, he's trying to force them to either shut down their business or perform services for same-sex weddings, their videography services they don't want to do. So the case went along. The plaintiffs, the couple who owned the business, Carl and Angel Larson, went to federal court, and they won in federal court to start with. So they went to federal court claiming their constitutional rights are being violated. The state of Minnesota won the first round at trial court, the U.S. Federal District Court. John Turn, and all these judges, by the way, you can always figure out how they're going to come out based on whether they were appointed by a Republican president or a Democrat president, which it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So this couple had the first round U.S. District Judge John Tunheim, appointed by Bill Clinton, ruled against them, saying, no, you can't have your business unless you're willing to honor same-sex marriage. Went up an appeal. The next court up, the appellate court, the circuit court, ruled in favor of the couple, saying the state of Minnesota was violating their constitutional rights by forcing them to make videos at same-sex weddings. So they win, and instead of taking the case to the Supreme Court, which would be the next logical step if the state of Minnesota wants to keep trying to force these people to participate in a wedding that they find to be inconsistent with their religious values, instead of that, Keith Ellison filed a new lawsuit. Again, going back, trying to force them to do what they say violates their religious freedom. I will get around to the points about the outcome of this. It does not have an outcome yet, but this is the left using the courts to force people to take actions inconsistent with their religious values, inconsistent with their belief in Christianity. In fact, the evidence so far at this new case in federal court shows this Attorney General, Keith Ellison in Minnesota, with all the things he could be working on, like crime and investigating crime and solving issues facing the state, was actually setting up this couple and other organizations, service providers who support traditional marriage, setting them up by sending in fake clients, fake same-sex couples into these organizations, just to see if they could get the organization to say, no, I'm sorry, we only work with traditional marriage. This is using the tax dollars of the state of Minnesota to hassle private citizens in a place where these couples, same-sex couples, have all sorts of other service providers they could turn to. But The state of Minnesota, especially Keith Ellison, not okay with that, because the point of what he's trying to do is shut down Christianity, shut down Christian values in this country, make it impossible for people to practice their Christian faith in America. Note, he is Muslim. Islam also does not support same-sex marriage, to say the least. No information of him trying to set up, no hint of him trying to set up Muslim-owned businesses to force them to provide services to same-sex couples. Only the Christian businesses are the target of his sting operations. This, my friends, is a huge problem in Minnesota.